organization from which the Freedom Rides emerged. It was founded in 1919. And some of our greatest modern prophets have associated themselves with this organization, and yet I never hear their name spoken. And when I reflected on that this week, I realized the way that we understand news necessarily involves frenzied activity. We live in a world of commercially produced news material. If it's going to grab the attention and draw the interest of the general public who spend their money with the advertising corporations, it needs to be active. Peace doesn't get covered. But it's all around us. Just as the Fellowship of Reconciliation was born in 1919 and has continued throughout the world to do this important work, and in all that coverage of Ferguson and Baltimore, they were there. But no one spoke the name on the air because it's not interesting if nobody gets hurt. From the time of the invasion of Kuwait, you remember way back then, until the official withdrawal of U.S. forces from Iraq, a small group based in the Atlanta Quaker Meeting House stood on the corner of Peachtree and 14th Street in the heart of the business district of Atlanta in a stand for peace every Friday at noon, no matter what the weather. No matter whether anybody noticed them, they stood there. Just to remind us that peace exists as a real thing in the world, and that more peace is always possible, and perhaps to ignite something in the conscience of each of us. I worked at the corner of 14th and Peachtree. I saw them every Friday. And so today, the Fellowship of Reconciliation peace activists of many different stripes, Quakers, Catholics, Protestants, Jews, Buddhists, atheists, and many others, continue to move through the world in the way of peace. And I am not sure that there is any way to bring peace about in a real and transformative sense on our planet except one-on-one. That's a really slow process. But what I do know is that peace maintained by armed forces is not peace. I am clear on that. The peace that is kept by the peacekeepers who carry weapons is not peace, as I understand it. Just like true faith, true peace must be voluntary, intentional. And maybe it's contrary to our human nature. Maybe that's why it's so difficult. I'm not sure. I'm sure that the sociologists and psychologists and others among us have opinions on this. I'm not educated enough in those fields to really have an opinion to share, but it sure seems to me that just as for me as an alcoholic, sobriety is unnatural, my natural state is intoxication. And so sobriety is an active daily resistance. I think peace also must be an active daily resistance against the animal instinct of violence. And it occurred to me as I brought this together this week that maybe that's why we have so much difficulty sometimes understanding peace as a positive force rather than simply the absence of violence. We fail to recognize that peace and quiet and settledness and calmness is not our natural state. Our natural state is fury and rage and violence. And we have not yet reached the evolutionary stage that incorporates the value of peace into what it means to be human. There's no question that peace is necessary, desperately necessary, for the survival of humanity. But I am not convinced that lasting peace is possible until we, as human beings, achieve this next evolutionary level. The point beyond violence as our natural state. Indeed, these times are the least violent in human history.